Okay, my name is Janina Jimenez, and I am a teacher. I was here like 16 years ago sitting at this meeting. I felt really overwhelmed, and I feel you. We are going to talk about the science of learning and what the science of learning tells us about classroom design, instruction, and classroom atmosphere, three things. And for this to happen and have an effect in our students' brains where learning happens, we need to engage, energize, focus, and calm their brains through classroom design and instruction. My name is Janina. I put the picture there of the book because I'm so happy that you get to have it. I have been selling it online, but this is the first time, like in person, like I see someone with a book. Not through a picture, so it feels really good. And I have been teaching multi-grade forever. I actually went to school, an Adventist school since I was little, and it was multi-grade. So I have no idea what it is to be in a single grade room, and I have no idea what it is to teach one grade. So I'm just multi-grade, and I don't know anything about one grade teaching, so I will not giving you advice about that. And I am doing here at Andrews Park online a PhD in curriculum and instruction. And before we begin, I want us to stop and recognize some things. One is that you are an amazing teacher already. You're doing great. That's why you have been hired, because people heard great things about you. So you are doing great. And I don't want you to think that whoever comes to talk to you, you have to change everything and just go with it. Just take one thing, because you know what you're doing. And breathe. I'm gonna breathe too. Have fun, give yourself grace. You're doing your best. I want you to believe that, because you are. You're here, you're paying attention, I see you. Ask questions and decide only on one thing that you will do next from each presentation. I'm doing 3 things in one presentation today, so I am going to go fast, but not super fast because of my accent. You need me to go also kind of slow. So if you don't understand something, please let me know, and know that you can take it easy. And then you will have the book and you can read it at your own pace. Let's talk about brain-friendly learning space. I chose learning space because it's a space for learning and not so much for us the teachers. And I know that we have said for so many years, and I have too, my classroom is my kingdom. Well, it is not. It is a learning space. It is the students' learning space. So it has to be functional and serve the students. And it is not my storage place. I know we need resources, but it is mostly for the kids and to serve them well. And how many walls will you have in your classroom? I ask this because it seems obvious, but some people told me virtually that in Australia they have like 6 walls or 5. So I don't get it. Like, depending on the building, it is not like that everywhere, but it happens. But mostly, are we agreeing that we all have 4 walls in our classroom? Yes, Emily, thank you. So one wall, we are going to use it to energize our students' brains, and that is where you can go to page 15, and we will talk about some ideas to energize our room. When you enter your classroom, what message does it give? So we have to think about that. And one of the messages that we want to give our students is that we want them to feel like they can collaborate, they can create, they can be energized, engaged, they can do projects. And for that, we can, again, these are principles. It is not like a recipe that you have to do. This is a principle, and you make it work for your students. You know your students better than I do. Make it work for your subject matter, for your building, for your philosophy of teaching, but this is a principle. Dedicate one wall or a corner where you provide many things for your students to be creative while feeling engaged and energized. Put up bright posters, bright lights. You don't have to provide chairs. like Nicole said here, if they are moving, it is better for their brains. If they can do their projects while standing up, much better. That way you give them the time and space to your students to move. Their brains will like that. Actually, it is the brain's favorite thing. It is proven. Movement is the brain's favorite thing for so many things. And one of the things that I like to talk is, because that's my thing, memory. So it is a win-win. You want your words to be remembered, make them move, and it will be a win-win. Their brains will like that and will permit them to be more creative and enthusiastic about what they are doing, which is not just crafts, because it is not just for science that you can have a wall for them. For language arts, we use it for all the subjects, even for Bible. STEAM projects, everything. This place can also have your students' projects displayed. This is very important, because when we do something fun and then we say, okay, math is coming, pick it up, okay, put it away, we need to go to the next subject. So if you have it in a place constantly open, you are inviting them to come back to it and to keep tweaking it and keep changing it. If I don't change the subject with my students, they will still be doing the tabs. How do you call it? I had the word. And they were creating and creating. We could have had that a whole year because we just left it there, so they would finish something and go there to keep changing it. And that's how life works. We keep changing and improving. And if we say, no, time to go, put it away, we will never come back to it. I know we don't have time for that. Who has time here as teachers? No one. And we can leave them always something to do, a constant invitation to create. But if you can have a maker space, and that is what I wanted to show you on page 15, that you have so many things to add to your maker space, and that is actually on page 23 that we will be going to. A lot of things you can do on your maker space. For COVID, we couldn't use our STEAM lab, so we put in my students' desk STEM boxes or STEAM boxes, so they could work on their desk, because we were so used to do things when we finished things, or to show how we were thinking. To make visible thinking, we have to put things in our hands. So if you don't have that, a space for a whole wall for a maker space, you can have a corner or one table or the box, but that is the last resource. I say that because I want your students to move and go to that chair or that table. To tackle hard or boring concepts, you can have socially distanced, but now I think we're getting closer this year, and we can have classroom transformations, and that is when you want to teach something super hard or even boring for you, because here we are in a safe space. There's things that, close your ears, that it is boring for us. So we can transform the room and make it fun even for us, because our attitude makes everything. Our face, our smiles makes a difference in instruction. And if you don't have time to do a whole transformation, we will talk about thematic units later. I do this not every week. It is when we finish a set of standards and we celebrate that, that unit, we do this. And then if we don't have time, you can just come one day with something different and you will get their attention. If you do this every day, it will become boring. Do it when it is something hard to teach. So when they come, at least you have their attention, and then they are alert to absorb what you have to teach. That is where you can do it. When we did distance learning, in my opinion, the worst thing that happened to us as teachers, because we were not teaching, we were just giving things and correcting. We were not in the aha moments. It was a very hard season for us teachers. So I'm so glad that we are back in the classroom. We can enjoy learning with our students. And these are some of the things we did. For example, my boys, I don't want to stereotype, but my boys, when we were doing poetry, they would say, the sun is good, it shines. I'm done, Mrs. Jimenez. There you have it, happy? So what we did, we became secret poets, and we would find evidence in other poetry books, and we were kind of surgeons. I have it right here. And we would pick the words and pick them and copy and paste them on the other thing, and they were super careful. I had a little boy there, the one at the bottom. He's in high school now, super tall, and he shows me how he writes. And he says, I'm careful with my words, like a surgeon. That always stuck. It might have not stuck on everyone, but if you make a difference in one person when that person writes, I love teaching writing because that is something that kids are not used to dwell in thinking and putting their words out. They just want to do the answer and give it to you and finish the assignment. So do things to engage their brains when you think that the task is complex and hard to tackle. Here we did chemical and physical changes, so we transformed the room into an ice cream shop. This is not to teach that, although sometimes I do it. It is to celebrate that we have learned it. First, I need you to focus and do your thing. And then we celebrate and you show me the evidence of learning, but it's not like this every day in my classroom. Please don't think that. It is actually a combination of engaging their students, my students' brains, focusing their brains, and calming their brains. Then we have the next wall, and flexible sitting or not, if you don't want to do flexible sitting, that's fine. But flexible sitting or not, you really need to provide movement. And Nicole said, I'm so glad you paved the way for me, because movement is the number one thing. I have a very small classroom. Dr. Horton knows because she taught in that classroom. It is super small. I would have bruises here because, okay, yes, I can get there. So I had desks all around my classroom, and it was pretty loud. So when we did flexible sitting, the noise decreased, behavior decreased. Instead of tapping under the table, or they could move so they were not bothering other people. They were focused, like I saw it. I saw what the books said. I saw it in my own classroom. It works. So if you don't have different seating options, that's okay, just provide movement. And be careful with those yoga balls because they don't have back support. So we can have a child always like that. Provide back support, and if the option doesn't have back support, have them move. What I do is, you choose where you want to sit for math. You prove to me. I have an individual conversation. You know, the ones that you have to have an individual conversation, then you make it general to all of them individually. But it is for that child you're judging, and that child is doing great because he needed it, and then the other one is acting up. So I said, you choose where you want to sit, because we talk a lot about how we learn, metacognition, and if you don't make wise choices, I'm gonna be like another regular teacher. I choose for you, and that's not a big deal because teachers choose their seats for you. So you prove it to me, and I'm telling you it works. And then for social studies, we change again. So they don't change while they work. No, you stay there. It's not like they are working all over the place while learning. No, you choose that. You can move in that section, and then we move again in the next class. Then these are the different options. Then we have the next wall, which is to focus. And when we have a makerspace, see, I tend to look at that because they did it on purpose. You go through these doors, and that's the wall that your wow wall. So in your classroom, as soon as you come, you can have your wow wall. I'm changing things around in my classroom, and I have a library in my makerspace, and I'm still, as I'm talking to you, debating what should I do when they come into my classroom, the library or the makerspace. So if you have ideas and you do that, let me know. But when you come, a wow wall, like, oh, this is a message that I get. I can be creative. When you are not in the classroom, your classroom speaks for you. So what is the message that you're going to give to your students when you are not in the classroom? First of all, I don't want to put pressure on you, but start thinking about maybe some elements. Jesus. I always remember again, my boss here, she would say, when you enter into our classroom, you need to leave the message, send the message that this is an Adventist school. So what are you going to have there that sends a message that you are unique? Because parents would like to see that. So the other two walls, it is better if you do not put a lot of bright posters all over the place. You choose that wall, the engaging wall, to put all the bright messages, and then two walls for your focus wall. If you have word wall or math wall or the standards you are teaching, you put that, and only that. And for that to happen, I had to make the tragic decision of taking everything down in my classroom, live with it for 3 days, because I would take something off, okay, and then put two back. And I am the person who had things even on the ceilings. So there is hope for you, because if there was hope for me. So take everything down and put only the things that you're teaching during that unit. Your walls have to serve your curriculum. I know that we want to keep the frame that our students gave us 20 years ago about a poem about us, but it's not about us. Just put, if you're doing fractions, just that fraction. And around that poster, I'm getting ahead of myself, around that poster, don't put a lot of things. This gives you a release that you don't have to have all the Pinterest cute classroom decorations. I'm okay with that, but that's not your priority. Your priority is for your walls to serve your students. You don't have to have it color coordinated, a theme, none of that. Of course, you have to have an organized and neat classroom, but decoration is second. Function is first. You need to serve your students, and if that works and you have next door a beautiful classroom, don't feel bad. Do not feel bad. If you're doing what is best for your students, just go with it. You're doing fractions, you put the fraction there. And if you can do the anchor charts made by your students and your walls are kind of blank during the first week of school, that's okay, because you're choosing your students to do their own anchor charts. So think about them and don't worry about all the standards that trends tell us that we have to do. And then the next wall, it is the CAM wall. So we're going to dedicate one wall for the makerspace, or here, I have to stop thinking about that. Then two walls for focus, and one wall to calm our students' brains. And in this wall, we need, and later on, I will tell you why we need to calm our students' brains. It is not just to rest their brains. When we calm our students' brain, the most beautiful thing happens. So it is not just calm your student's brain. Something needs to happen before, and I will throw that hook, so you wait for it, and maybe you know it already, but this is a crucial step and aspect in our classroom. Again, I have a very small classroom, so what I do is I dedicated that board there, and I keep it clean, because immediately when you're overwhelmed, you're looking for something to calm your brains. Nature is number one. Nature is number one. But in our classrooms, it is better if we have something empty. And play with lights. You know what time of the day you need to do that. When we come from lunch and I have read aloud, so I turn the lights off, put this, and it brings them down, because I cannot, with energy when they come from recess, I cannot bring them down. So I have to use my classroom design to bring it down, instead of, hey, calm down, calm down, calm down. And you come, and there is a lot of things. So when they come, they are trained that after lunch, we relax, and when we use our classroom design to do that work for us, it is easier for us, and it is really a clue and a trigger for our students. This is my humble calm corner, because again, I cannot have a huge thing, so I had to do a vertical tent. And it is not a time out place, it is a time in. And they can go there and work, and I don't ask them, like, why are you feeling this way at the moment? They just know. Sometimes they go, and they sit there instead of fighting with someone. And they know that they have that place. Imagine kids having a hard time at home, and then they have to be on with you. Sometimes you want to hide. As a teacher, sometimes you want to go to the bathroom and cry, pray, quit, all the things. I have my principal who leaves a chocolate in the bathroom, and he says, this is for your 3-second break. Make sure you cry or you yell or you smile or whatever. And just that note is like, I feel seen, I feel better. So when you do that for your students, you have inside that calm corner some things for them to fidget or come using or nothing, weird like do this, but you can just say breathe. A prayer where they ask Jesus for help, co-regulation skills, by books. So you tell them, I see you. I know that you have feelings. You don't have to hide them. Because we know when the amygdala sense the things, then they can't think. And then during COVID, we couldn't have any of this. And I had my same students, and my students saw me, and I was trying to be really good about hiding my feelings, my frustration, and they would come to me and they say, I know you want us to have this and we can, I know you want us to have the makerspace. And one day I said, yes, I'm feeling very frustrated because everything we have come to and learned, we can't do it anymore. So I said, I need your help because we need alone time. Because they know, I explain to them why they do this. I put learning in their hands as much as I can. And a few days later, the pastor's kid said, I found a way we can go inside our desk for reading time. Oh, that's when I broke a rule and I hugged her. I said, thank you, Kalina, thank you. And she said, you can take a picture so you can have an idea for next year. And I took a picture of her and she gave me that idea. See, she knew she needed that time away from the other 15 kids because we have first, second, third, and fourth. And as a fourth grader to live with first graders, sometimes they need a break. I acknowledge that, and I ask them not to tell them that they can't do these silly things because they need to do those things, but sometimes it becomes a lot for the older kids and vice versa, so they need a break. So make sure you have an engaging and energizing wall, focusing wall. How many walls for the focus walls? 2 and 1 for the calm. Again, this is just how I do it, but as long as you have these principles in place, like a cycle, in a way that it makes sense for you, do it in a way that makes sense for you. And now instruction has to follow the same cycle. Let's see. Okay. I hope I didn't freeze it. It will come. For instruction, you need to alert their brains. They can come to the classroom. Oh, see, it went ahead. And I'm guilty of this. Everything that I'm telling you here, and I had the pages for everything, but I know that I'm rushing, so you can go back. For each thing, you have a lot of ideas, and these are just 3 chapters from the book, and it has 7. The thing is that I lean into this. I don't do this every single minute, every single second, because sometimes I just, okay, let's get to work. I know you want to be engaged, but we have to get this standard going. So as long as we lean in, we are not perfect, and we improve tomorrow, and we improve the next day. And I have been guilty of, oh, good morning, and I am like, yes, this sends the text, and I'm doing all the things, and when they come in, I'm setting the tone for them to be, oh, okay, school again, instead of, hi, and I'm wearing a silly hat, and I'm wearing something, or put music, or I do something different for them. So when I do that, especially in middle school, when they are in this meh mood the whole day, you have to at least wake them up with something. So you need to engage and energize the brains as soon as they come in. You have to have their attention. Because when they have that novelty and all the other things that our brain needs to pay attention, you will win. And you need your students to pay attention so they can do retention later, because there is no retention, there is no long-term memory if you didn't first get their attention. So attention comes first, retention's later. So they need each other. So you need to get their attention as soon as they come in. You can do classroom transformation, design thinking. You can start your class, your morning worship. Good thing that we have worship in the morning and we don't go straight to math. So that there is something that helps us a lot. And I'll talk about the morning routine later. Simulations, scavenger hunts, they can come, and instead of doing them, finding something to work, you can put it under their chairs. That costs nothing. And you at least, I am, you got me there, I am alert. Peer teaching, I am going to pass them quickly because you have a lot of strategies, and I divided by engaging the brain. For example, 43, you have like hundreds of things that you can do to strategies that engage their brains. Write and tell, show and tell, reader's theater, talk like an expert. When you ask a student to teach something, they are learning twice. Teaching is the highest form of learning. I know you've done it. When you ask a student to teach it, they have taught it better. It's amazing. It's amazing how they teach. It is the most beautiful thing. And sadly, they paid more attention to their classmates than they paid to me, because it is a classmate who is paying attention. So use that. They will love to feel responsible. And remember that students act at the level of your expectations. When you know and you let them know that you expect great things from them, they act here. Same with flexible seating. They know that people have come to my classroom, they are little ones, they are going to break your things in no time. The kids heard that. And I told them, I trust you. You help me. After school, we would put the classroom together. And at Sabbath school, because we share the classroom, I didn't have to even be at the door checking if someone was using. My students were like, no, you don't touch that. No, that's not for Sabbath school. They acted at the standards that we expected. So expect great things from your students. They want to be good students. They want to be good. They want to learn. When they have trouble learning, and thank God I was not an A+ student when I was little, because I know what it feels to think that you are a B. Because students think that they are a grade. That's what I keep telling them. You are not a B. You're not an A. You're not an F. You are John, the Son of God. Your identity is not your classmate. We have to work a lot, side note, with our students' identity, because the devil wants to put the identity through social media, through grades, through what their parents tell them, to what their classmates tell them, to everything else, instead of, I am the Son of God. I know I want to do good. I know I want to learn. And I know I want to be a good person. They do want to. They don't show it many times, but going back to peer teaching, give them that responsibility. I have first graders teaching things, especially with standards-based learning. They can tell you what they're doing, and they can explain it to their classmates. Hands-on as much as you can. Again, writing was my students' favorite subject when I came in, and it is because when you're writing, you don't have anything to retrieve from. So if you provide sensory experiences before they write, waste one day going to nature and write all the things they hear, they smell, they touch, and then when they come, they can retrieve from memory, because senses are powerful, and they can write from that bank of memory. So every time you write something, have a sensory experience first, and then they will write so much that they will say, no, not yet. And again, it's not like it always happens in my classroom. Sometimes you see their faces like waiting for the clock to be just, I can't do this anymore. But I have seen the improvement as I'm doing more hands-on in grading. This is how they can show learning, all the things, and you will find there, all the things that they can show you how they learn in an engaging way. Then you really have to focus your students' brains. There are some things that are not negotiable. You really need to know 9 times 9 in less than a second in my classroom, like this. And for that to happen, we cannot be playing the whole day. We can play to learn the times table, but sometimes we have to do, not sometimes, many times we have to do serious things that require our focus, our silence. Silence is a good thing. It doesn't mean that you're a boring and mean teacher. There are certain things that I explain to my kids. It's not like silence, but I explain, for this, we need thinking time. And this is what I say. You might not need silence to do your thinking time. I know that you can do 5 things, but we don't know if our classmate needs it, and that classmate will not say, please. So because some kids need silence time, we are all going to be in silence. And then, are we ready? Did we all go to the bathroom? And then we think. And I tell them that it is great to have the ability to think and then enjoy thinking and putting into a paper or a project. So we really need to provide our students time to think and focus. There are so many strategies that I wrote there. One is hexagonal thinking, and that is when you teach something and you put concepts on these hexagons, and then they put it together, they glue it on a construction paper, and then we show how each one of us think based on the same concept and how we associate things, because we know that learning is acquired according to our background. So we think in a different way and make sense of learning in different ways. So this is a visible tool for you and your students, so we can be in awe of our learning experience. There's so many more there, but I really have to get going. And then calming. Remember I told you that calming is not just to rest, but it is a requisite for thinking and memory. When you go to the hotel today, you're going to rest from this exhausting day, right? So that's one function. Resting has that function, to restore your energy, to restore your brain, your mind. That is the restoring part that we always think. That is the only reason for calming our brains. But it has to happen first. I know it is a cycle. You cannot think, you cannot do well if you have not rested. So we needed to start our thinking process, and we need it at the end. And now the most beautiful thing, because my thing is long-term memory, and that is when you provide calming instructional strategies for your students, consolidation of learning happens. And learning has 3 basic things. One is encoding. We put information in our brains, like I'm doing now, without using anything fun. I'm sorry. I'm putting things in your brains. And then that's how sometimes we are in the classroom. We put our things in our students' brain, encode. Sometimes we consolidate it, doing graphic organizers and other strategies, but it has to make sense. And then we have to retrieve it. It has to get out. One of the strategies, peer teaching, when the student brings it out, that is when the whole process of long-term memory happens, and you know that they have learned. So if they don't get it out, you don't know if they got it in. Maybe they are still thinking about their puppy. You will never know until you see evidence that they can retrieve what you taught them. And there are so many strategies for retrieving. One is some of these strategies. Response to clips, and you can do it in a calm way, because if you don't provide this, then the next teacher comes, or the next subject comes. So you have engaging, focusing, and our brains is our muscle. I don't go to the gym, I don't have time, but I have a few weights at home, and this is basic. Can you be with the weights the whole day like this, carrying them around for 7 hours? Why do we do this to our students? So we have to warm them up, engage them, then have them focused, and then let them go. Let them go. You are not wasting the last 10 minutes of your classroom period by doing calming activities. If you don't do that, they cannot make sense of what you taught and they will not remember it. That's why, what did you learn today? And you ask them at recess and they don't know. They don't know, so you really have to have them enjoy and make sense of what just happened before the other teacher comes or before you come and say, close your book now, and then you expect them to put their weights again. Think about that. We don't go around like this, and there is such a thing as cognitive load. And when students are loaded with cognition, really heavy, cognition exercises that we make them do, because thinking is working. It's working. Thoughts are actual things in their brains. It's not just abstract. They're actual things. So we're putting a lot in their brains. And they tune you off. They just can't. They want to, but they just physically can't be on and on and on for 7 hours. It's not like they are not paying attention, because they're, again, 3 times of attention. One is you can talk to me, I am talking to you, and you are doing other things, and you know what we are doing, but there are certain things that we need sustained attention, like 5 minutes, you really have to have your eyes on me for these 5 minutes. I don't say it that way, but I say, okay, this is the kind of attention that we leave the pencil. I actually have them, we leave the pencil 5 minutes, because that is sustained attention. That is a really higher order thinking that we are asking. Then we have to let them go. Let it go and say, okay, now you can go to that space and do that. So at the end of the period of each class, we do calming strategies. And if you don't do that, they don't go home and sit on a couch and say, let me reflect of what I've learned with Mrs. Jimenez. So what we do is, each Thursday, because I don't have time, for grading, I don't teach grading, we do reflection. And they grade everything we learned during the week. They are retrieving. It's beautiful to see the things they remember. Sometimes they just say, I really liked my lunch, to keep it real. But most of the time you see things coming out because you give them the time to retrieve in a calm way. That's why you can do podcasts, things with hands, cognition, bring the cognition load a little bit down. And when you do that, you are also embracing something that is called embodied cognition, because the mind needs the body to make sense. But you are not asking them to do heavy focused things. So again, these are just principles. Sometimes I do finish with something, okay, we finished, there is no time, let's go to the next subject. But we lean into, okay, let's give them the time to calm down. We listen to stories, music, we doodle. Doodling is a strategy. You can talk and say, as I talk, you can doodle. And I am going to make a statement here. I always say it. These ladies always hear me say, I am not against technology, because I needed someone to connect this thing here. So I'm not against technology. But if you can avoid it in your classroom, and I'm not saying don't use it. No. There are things that we have done Kahoot with my students. They love it. But paper and pencil are basic things that are still working. You cannot do worksheets the whole day, but worksheets is not a bad word. You don't feel ashamed like, oh, I'm doing a worksheet. If the worksheet is a higher order thinking, use it. An app that is flashy, colorful, it looks like you're doing something super fun. But think a little bit further. Is this a higher order thinking, or is it just a fun app? So I'd rather do this worksheet that is a higher order thinking than this fun app. So you be the judge. Do not go by trends. Do not go by what companies say is best for students. We know that paper and pencil hands-on promotes a special thinking, memory. So this is an affirmation. I know you do all these things, and this is nothing new. But this is an affirmation for you to say, I'm gonna do what is best for my students, and trends come and go. And I am going to do what is best for my student, even if it is simple, which, by the way, less is more, as simple is better. And now, classroom atmosphere. So for instruction too, if you can do engaging, energizing, and calming your students' brains, that aligns with the science of learning. So you do it in the shape that your students and classroom require. Okay, community and routines. I put routines, but it should be rituals, but I didn't want to scare you because rituals. But I like the word rituals instead, and I will explain why later. But for our peace of mind, so I don't lose you, I put routines. And that is on page 159 if you want to look. Classroom community. We talked about classroom atmosphere, classroom instruction, and when God created this world, He took care of the environment first. So before we start decorating our classrooms, we need to think of the message that we want to give our students. So this should be the first presentation, but I did it at the end because it is an ongoing thing that we have to have until day 181 or 180. I don't know how many days you will have this year. And I'm gonna go fast. Building a strong classroom community promotes a sense of belonging. You know all these things, positive social skills, all of those good things that you have. These are the things that you don't see, but need to be in place. The decoration not only has to follow the science of learning principles, but our mission as Adventist educators, that Jesus is coming soon, that we are created, that we are redeemed, and that we want to keep learning in heaven with Jesus. And learning is the most beautiful thing there is in life. And our minds, how they can connect with Jesus. So all those things have to be present so they can constantly send a message to your students without you telling them. Cultural responsive kids. I had Jamaican kids last year, and I made sure I put something representing them, like, I see you. So when I'm not there, oh, she knows that my parents are from there. Uplifting quotes. This is the time that you use to send a good message. Morning meeting. This is where you can have worship, making engaging. We do always a nugget of social emotional learning. You can do check-ins with emojis. I know Lisa has a check-in with Google Docs, and you put emojis there. And then this is where I told you that rituals or habits are different. And then I started on the pandemic because I was not feeling great as a teacher. So we would read jokes every time in Zoom. So when I met my students again, I left my jokes book aside. Okay, let's get to work. And they said, where's the joke book? So before we do math, for now and forever, I have to read jokes to my students. And sometimes I don't want to read jokes. I'm not in the mood. I just want to get going. And it is like, but it makes me feel better. We have a good life. It really helped me. Sometimes they're horrible jokes, not inappropriate, but horrible, that you say, what? And then we laugh because they're so horrible, and we rate them, and then we start with a smile, and it helps me. And that is engaging too. Relationships. You can take a picture of this. And it is also there too. Spend time with each student. A week. You can have a chart. Again, this is what I strive for. Not always I get to do it every week, but I know I have it. If I don't plan for it, it will never happen. Planning, you know, that has to happen For your classroom community, write your goals. What is the message? Write it. If you don't see it, we can have great ideas and they will never happen. So plan for the message you want your students to have. Maybe you can have a word. I have a word that says shine. That's my message for this year. And if I don't put it there, then I am all in August. Yes, we're going to let it shine. And then in August and October, yes, do your timetables, do this. And I forget. So we have to plan for community and atmosphere. It is super important. It is not a waste of time. It is a win-win. Provide time for them to get to know each other, create a classroom symbol, song, your own poem, your own flag. We have our own song, and this is what I said about rituals. A habit is lining up. That's the habit. The ritual is how you do it. How do you do it as a teacher that is special from another class? Can someone connect that bell there for later? Over there, I left a bell there. It is white. And for my call for attention, instead of saying, hey, pay attention, or class, yes, sometimes I do it, but we have our little code. And it feels unique. So that is a ritual. How do we get our math books out? That's a habit. But how do we get it in this class with Mrs. Jimenez, with this group of kids? So at least I said, yes, this year we are doing this and this. Oh, last year and so they feel special. Not like, yes, Mrs. Jimenez does. Yes, for the last 16 years, I know. No, with my class, we are different. We have our own song, our own poem, our own flag for the year, our own goals, so they feel special with you. And this is things that you can do during the first day of school. There are some vocabulary that we talk, like, for example, in multi-grade. If my little kids are doing 1 + 1, which I can list a lot of cognition skills to do 1 + 1, and I don't want a 4th grade to say, that's easy. I have a little talk with my 4th graders. What we do is 1 + 1 is 2. We know our way to, we get up and say, yes! Because we need to celebrate and give the time to, sorry if you're, is this all multi-grade? Oh, good. This is something that can happen in multi-grade. So you need your big kids to be the cheerleaders and not, because when you are in a multi-grade, if you're in 1st grade and you have to act cool like a 4th grader, that 1st grader is missing their 1st grade year experience when they talk about poop. And the 4th grade, no, I know they like to, I'm not going to encourage that, but they talk about that. So I'm going to, and give them the time and remind these 4th graders, you were doing the same, so let them be in that grade. Each one has to have their experience. That's a thing that I have learned during the years that it was happening in my classroom. Classroom management is first relationship, and I know it is easy to say it. It is very easy to say. It is hard to think about it, to do a classroom management based on relationships, because that's not an easy fix. It is better to say, give the ugly look. I have your parents text me. And you get, like, I've done that too. But relationship is the longer way, but it is the most effective way. It is. And I'm sure you have kids that come to you after 10 years and there is that connection. I had it yesterday, that's why I wasn't here. A student asked me to go to her birthday party. I know these students since she was 2 years old, and then we sat with my former students. I couldn't take it. It was so good. And we had our ups and downs and everything, but it is family. Adventist education is something for life. So if you don't do relationship first, you're going to see that child's parents in Sabbath school. So it has to be a good relationship with parents. And I don't say they are my besties, but I go out at recess. I go out when they come in, and I don't say, Mrs. Johnson, we need to talk. No, I go out when they come and pick. You cannot believe what your son did. I know. And you say a good thing, and then the next day, yes, he hit that child again. What are we going to do? So you talk like a friend, and that takes time. It is better to send a note. Talk to your child. He keeps hitting his sister. I know it's hard, but take time on that. Classroom jobs and classroom management, and I am going to talk about the classroom management that is public and visible. If we can get away from that, it will be much better. I don't even believe in putting honors, roles, things on the wall, but that's okay. But behavior, no, because then they gain a reputation. And then they are the ones who do the things provoke, and then they always were on green, and then it is hard for you to say, oh, I'm gonna clip you down. So many things involved in that public system. So it is better to go one by one. These are things that can improve your relationship with parents. Communication is key. If you communicate every single week or be consistent, I have learned that the one thing that parents like from you is communication. And the parents that you're getting now are what comes after the millenniums? What, Gen Zs, or I don't know. Yes, they don't read your emails. They don't read your papers. You can send them, because there's one that reads emails. I don't know how, but I still read emails, but these people don't read emails anymore. So I go and say, do you prefer a WhatsApp message? And then you close for comments, because you don't want a whole thread. My child forgot his shoe. Oh, and then we judge all that. Mother always forgets the shoe. So you go by one by one. I know this is hard, and I'm not here to add you more to your plate, but if you have your parent know what is going on, you have 90% of the battle won. Your parent has to know what is going on. Your parent has to be aware of everything, because your student will not tell anything to your parents. So you have to have a clear conversation, clear way with your students' parents. I have an open door policy, and that is, I tell my parents specifically, my doors are open for you, always. Always. They don't always come because they work. But if a parent wants to come here and sit with his child, the child will say, Mom, don't sit by me, don't come anymore. But at least I said to the parent, you can come to my classroom and see what is going on. Always, you can come and see how can I help you. You can come and have lunch with your child. You can come and help me. Because when you have a parent in your classroom and sees what you're doing, you have that parent on your side. No, I noticed this. I know how much she works, because we're always working there. So it is not we're having a great life with our feet on. Maybe that's what they imagine when they ask so many things from us. But when they see us in action, when they see their child in action, things change. So when you just say to your parent, we have an open door policy, come anytime you want, anytime. They know that you are in a partnership with them to help their child. So they don't see you as a separate entity. We are in this together. So try that. You will not have them. I have 2 moms that are always coming and helping me on things, and they are amazing. They are amazing, amazing, amazing parents. And believe it or not, kids, even though they complain that they even say, don't kiss me in front of my classmates, their scores improve. That's research-based. When they just see parents involved, or when a dad just asks, how did you do at school? That improves. Just the vision of a parent being involved in any capacity in their education. Did I skip this? Okay, this is what I told you, the routines. that are more like rituals, because how do you line up? Do we do a silly thing? How do we deal with supplies? How do we do conflict resolution? How do we go to recess? I know we have the habit, but you can ask your students how we can make it a fun thing just for us. How do we come back from recess? I have a thing. When we come from recess, I don't want to hear what happened at recess. You tell me at recess, not in math. Oh, let's do, oh, she did. No. No, when we come, and sometimes I want to say on day 172, I have been telling you this for 172 days, that when we come from recess, we don't do that, but consistency. We go there and focus. Yes, we go there and think. Or I'll say, we have a surprise, but if you are hurt at school, at recess, don't come lining up hurting. No, you should have told me when you were hurt. And this is what happens. Tell me if you are a teacher, if you know this. She hurt me. Okay, come, let's sit together. No, I think I'm fine. Well, she wanted to tattletale. But if that child stops playing, call 911. That child is hurt for sure. But if that child comes to interrupt you during lining up, oh, she did. We don't do that. And yes, I open my eyes and I do maybe the ugly look. We don't do that here. This is how we line up, and we are about to do our special thing. We are not doing that. So, but that takes consistency until day 180. Consistency, because if you allow it once, it will always happen. It's not an army, but you can still say with your sweet voice, no, we don't do that. We do this instead. I know, but we do this. Yes, I know, but no. And that helps you. Then you have the routines for entering the room, and I will give this to Kalisha. She will have that so you can have it for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you email me instead?
Yes. How do you enter the room? Oh, when they enter the room, I'm going to the bathroom. No, we come in first. This is how I do it. You might do it differently. But I need to see who is missing, because they all want to, of course, they want to go to, so you have to have something in place, because the other kids are learning and you don't want another teacher to look at you like, why are your kids so loud? So, no. Let's have a good relationship with the teacher next door. Then, and I explained that to my students. What if that child is doing a math test and he was about 9 times 7, and then you hear, ah, and that child, oh yes, I'm very dramatic. So, and they come and see, and sometimes they ask, well, what are you doing when we came from recess? Oh, we were reading, and like, ooh. But they get the point. And we are loud in our classroom and we close the door and everything, but you know, there are certain things that they need our routine. When they finish the work, what do you do? When they finish, that's a huge one. I know you plan for that. Sometimes I don't plan for that and things go south really quickly. How do we do with water, working in groups? Desk organization. You can show them a picture how that looks like. How do we deal with technology? We have iPads. And I have the thing that I say, okay, in 5 minutes we'll finish, in 3, in 2, and 1, and they have that thing that closes them all at once, because you always have otherwise the kid that is like this, and they know it happened in another room. They have, we don't have TikTok on our iPads, of course not. But they go to a website that allows them to still see those videos. So you have to have some things in place when that happens. No shaming, but you have a way to deal with technology, because it is a real thing. We know that. We don't have angels flying in our classroom. They are beautiful people, but they are not flying angels. And then the bell, and I have different things. This is when we do transition, and I will make you do one. Sorry. I choose the one, and then you have to get up and or make noise, whatever. And then when it stops, stops. So I'm gonna try it again. We did it last time. So I am talking and we finish whatever, and then when I do this, we drop everything and start moving or giggling. Can you do that? Whatever. And then when it stops, you look at me. And some people go and they make a lot of noise. And then I have your attention. You can do it with other things. Oh, what is your system for pencil sharpening? I know it's a huge thing. People who are not teachers, like they don't know our battles. Sharpening pencils. There has to be a system for sharpening pencils. Am I the only one? Do you have that too? I don't want you to be sharpening your pencil while I'm talking. I'm sorry. So this is what I do. I sharpen their pencils, and they put their pencils that are not sharp. Another teacher has another system in my classroom. It's working perfectly. So I'm not saying follow me. As long as you have a system for sharpening pencils. How do they turn in work? Do they come and say, oh, I'm done? And then they get, how does that work? Then how are you planning to do immediate feedback? That could not happen in virtual learning. As you can see, I'm traumatized by virtual teaching, that I couldn't have that feedback. Like if you're doing the 0 smaller than the 1, I want to tell, oh, you know, this 0 is a number 2. This 0 feels bad. Can we do it the same height, please? Oh, yes. So that couldn't happen before. We have the blessing of constantly not saying what you have wrong, but always being by them and having their aha moments and be close to them. How are you going to have that, especially multi-grade? It's not easy. But planning, when that happens first, then you're able to do a little bit better. And by year 5, you will do great. And we're still learning. Then how do we walk in the hallway? How do we go to the bathroom? How do we get library books? You might not have all these by the first day, but you can talk. You can have this list and then talk to your students one thing at a time. I have presented in places where teachers don't have anything in their classroom. They put everything in the middle. And then when the kids come, like the whole everything, books, chairs, everything in the middle. And as the kids come, they decide where things are going. I could never do that, but maybe it is a thing that you want to try and go since routine 0 to your kids. Maybe that works really well. But do what works for you. The drills, homework. This is my homework folder, and I am almost done, and I will give you that. Everything is in one place, so you can wipe it, because you know it can get sticky by things that happen at home. And this is the end. Explain the why of routines. Make it fun, smile, and show your love while you do that. Thank you so much.